I love the support that I get from the language community online, but there are some things that need to be said. With language learning, you definitely need to praise every success, not beat yourself up too much. And I think the language community online is very good about that, but I think it's also good to remember some uncomfortable truths that we don't really want to spread. There are quite a few things that really ought to be said, but they're not so aesthetic and love yourself and so beautiful like that. So I want to go over a few uncomfortable truths about language learning that people don't really want to say but must be said. Something uncomfortable that people really don't want to acknowledge is that fluency is going to take hundreds, if not thousands of hours. We never want to admit how long something's going to take to perfect, but if you're going for fluency, that means fluidly speaking, being able to respond and understand without any delay, and being able to produce the language in a completely natural, understandable way. If that's your goal, that's gonna take so much time, especially if you're starting from a beginner. So it's pretty unreasonable to say, oh, in one summer I'm gonna become fluent. No, you're going to take years to become fluent. The idea that language learning can be condensed into 100 hours, 50 hours, or something like that is perpetuated by a textbook industry that always wants to minimize the time, and a community that doesn't want to acknowledge how hard it is to get to fluency. So even though you can master a certain skill in 10 hours, you can talk about a certain topic very fluidly after 50 hours, 100 hours, you're not going to become fluent unless you are taking years and years of time to practice and produce this language. That is somewhat related to this other point that language learning is lifelong. In other videos before, I've talked about how language learning doesn't really end because the language is always evolving. If you learn a language, there's always going to be a new social group that uses the language in a special way, and you'll have to learn their style of speaking. Then a few years later, there'll be new slang words. Language learning never ends, it's lifelong. So although we are reaching our particular goals by being able to talk about some certain topic in 1 year or preparing for a certain test in some amount of time, really, language learning will never end. Think about an immigrant to a country. Even if they've lived in that country for 10 years, 20 years, still they're always learning new things. Even if they can operate completely in that new country with the new language, there's always something new that's appeared after they started learning. So everyone, including me, will be still learning languages after 50 years, and there really isn't an end to it. Something else that people online seem to forget all the time is that you're not ever going to improve a skill that you are not using. I think I'm extremely guilty of this one. In fact, in a recent video when I was talking about how you can improve your speaking if you are antisocial or introverted, I mentioned that you can work on other skills to improve your speaking. While yes, there is a passive benefit to your speaking if you're not using it, you will never truly improve that speaking unless you speak. If you never read, being a master of speaking is not going to help you read better. If you are very confident when you're speaking but you never do listening practice, you're not going to be good at listening. It seems pretty obvious when I say it now, but there are a lot of learners who keep doing the same thing, thinking it's going to help some other skill. If you want to improve X skill, you need to do X skill. You need to practice it directly. Yes, you can get passive benefits from the others because it's all related, but you will not truly improve it in a significant way. Something else really uncomfortable about language learning is acknowledging that your accent will never go away. Of course, you should try to improve your pronunciation, because if a native speaker cannot understand you, there is no communication. However, there is a limit to the improvements to your pronunciation. Think about a foreigner speaking in your native language. Even if they completely sound natural, if they are a professor and they're using huge words, they really deeply understand this language, you still hear that they are a non-native speaker. That doesn't mean their language skills are bad, it just means that they are identifiable by native speakers. You as a language learner will always be like that. Hopefully you can get really close to a native speaker, but you really will never truly be indistinguishable from a native speaker. Maybe the only exception would be if you learned that language as a child, but that is a very limited time frame to learn a language. So in reality, for most language learners, you will never completely remove your accent. And I repeat again, you can improve it, but you will never completely lose the accent. Something that actually gets me kind of angry sometimes is that aesthetic notes are not going to affect your language skills whatsoever. I love seeing beautiful notes on Instagram, people making gorgeous, multicolored, organized notes in their notebooks, or some notes in their iPad, in Notion. People make some pretty gorgeous notes, but that's not language learning. That's kind of distracting from language learning. The content is what you should be learning, remember, not making beautiful posts for Instagram. I'm not saying don't do that, that's a bad thing to do. I'm saying that has zero effect on your language learning. If you're okay with that, okay, go for it. If you like that, that's okay. People need to be reminded that even if your Spanish notes are beautiful, if you don't truly understand and you're able to reproduce that grammar or vocab, you just wasted your time and you're not really improving your language skills. I personally have super ugly notes when I'm learning a language, but the beauty of my notes have zero effect on my language learning. Having ugly notes doesn't mean that I have bad language learning habits. That just means the appearance is not good. It's literally that simple. I love a gorgeous social media post of a gorgeous note-taking session, but I kind of always want to comment like, you didn't do language learning, you just did something really pretty. You're an artist. I love that because I can't do that. Those are a few things that I've noticed so much in the language learning community. I think these are some general truths that we ought to remind ourselves, but I see it forgotten in the positivity and the beauty and the excitement of language learning. People kind of forget these things. I am here to rain on your parade. I think sometimes we need to be brought back to reality. Hopefully this brought you to reality. Let me know in the comments if you've forgotten these things when you were learning a language. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe if you want to see more from me. All of my socials are linked in the description below if you want to see more of my language learning journey. If you want some help with your language learning, I also have a website at studywithalex.com where I write about a lot of language learning topics that could be very useful to you if you've liked today's video. But that is all for today, so I'll see you for another video very soon, alright? じゃあまたね。